You know that feeling when you wake up and tell yourself today's the day. Today, you'll finally start. You'll change something, anything. But then, nothing happens. Your body feels like it's moving through concrete. Your mind goes blank the moment you try to think about the future. And the worst part, you can't even explain why. People around you seem fine. They set goals, they execute, they move forward. Meanwhile, you're stuck in this strange paralysis where you want to change desperately, but it's like someone cut the wire between your brain and your ability to act. So you start wondering, am I just lazy? Am I broken? Why can't I do what everyone else seems to do so easily? Here's what you need to understand. That exhaustion you feel isn't in your head. It's not a character flaw. What you're experiencing has a name in psychology: emotional shutdown. And it happens when your nervous system has been running on fumes for so long that it finally pulls the emergency brake. Your brain isn't sabotaging you, it's trying to save you. But here's the thing, understanding why this happens changes everything. We've been taught that change requires willpower, discipline. Just push through it, right? But what happens when pushing through stops working? What happens when your tank isn't just empty? It's been empty for months, maybe years. This isn't a video about motivation. Motivation is what gets you started. What we're talking about here is what happens after motivation dies, when your entire system shuts down because it can't afford to keep running at that pace anymore. And if you've ever felt guilty for not being able to just do it, this might be the most important thing you hear today, because emotional shutdown doesn't show up on the outside. You look fine, you function, barely, but inside, everything feels heavy, foggy, impossible. Your brain has quietly switched into survival mode, and now even thinking about change feels like climbing a mountain with no oxygen. So here's what we're going to do. We'll break down exactly what's happening in your brain and body when you hit this wall. Why you're not lazy or weak, why this response is actually intelligent, and most importantly, why understanding this is the first real step toward feeling like yourself again. Stay with me. Let's face it together. It creeps up on you, not all at once, never all at once. It's more like waking up one day and realizing you haven't felt genuinely excited about anything in weeks, maybe months. The things that used to light you up, goals, dreams, plans for tomorrow, they feel like they belong to someone else now, someone who had energy, someone who still believed change was actually possible. And then the guilt kicks in, hard. Because logically you know what you should be doing. You've consumed the content, read the books, watch the breakdowns. The roadmap is right there in front of you. But when it's time to take that first step, your body just stops. It's not that you don't want to move forward. It's that wanting and doing have somehow become two completely separate things. The wire's been cut, so naturally you start comparing. Everyone around you seems to be leveling up, launching projects, transforming their bodies, redesigning entire lives from scratch. And here you are, struggling to make it through a regular Tuesday without feeling like you've been hit by a truck. The question loops in your mind, what's fundamentally broken in me? But here's what's actually happening. Nothing is broken. What you're living through is your nervous system pulling the emergency brake after running too long, too hard, with no real rest. Psychologists have a term for this, emotional shutdown, and it's one of the most misunderstood psychological states out there. From the outside, people see apathy, laziness, a discipline problem. But on the inside, you're facing a wall of exhaustion so dense that even thinking about tomorrow feels like deadlifting with your brain. Your mind hasn't abandoned you. It's doing the only thing it can to keep you alive, forcing a full stop before the system collapses completely. Let's talk about what shutdown actually looks like in real time, because it's not dramatic. There's no breakdown, no visible collapse. That's what makes it so insidious. You still go through the motions. You show up to work, answer messages, maybe even laugh at jokes. But internally, everything's muted, like someone turned down the volume on your entire emotional range. Joy feels flat, Anger feels distant. Even sadness doesn't quite land the way it used to. You're functioning, sure, but you're doing it on autopilot, and the fuel gauge has been sitting on empty for longer than you care to admit. What confuses people the most is how selective this shutdown can be. You might still binge a series for 6 hours straight, scroll social media until 2 a.m., lose yourself in distractions that require zero emotional investment. And then you think, see, I'm not actually that tired. I'm just undisciplined. But that's not what's happening. Your brain isn't shutting down because it's incapable of doing things. It's shutting down because it's trying to protect you from doing the things that demand too much. The things that require planning, vulnerability, risk, hope. Those are expensive. And when your system's been running in survival mode for too long, it starts rationing energy like you're stranded in the desert with one bottle of water. Distraction doesn't cost you anything emotionally. Change does. Growth does. Hoping for a better future and possibly failing. That's the most expensive thing your nervous system can imagine right now. So it blocks the path, not to punish you, to preserve you. This is why willpower doesn't work here. You're not fighting laziness. You're fighting a deeply embedded biological response that's convinced the safest thing you can do is nothing at all. And until you understand that, you'll keep blaming yourself for something that was never about weakness in the first place. Now let's get into what's actually happening inside your brain when shutdown takes over, because this isn't abstract, it's neuroscience, and it explains everything. Your prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for executive function, planning, decision-making, impulse control, envisioning the future. All of that lives here. It's essentially your brain's CEO. But here's the problem. The prefrontal cortex is also one of the most energy-intensive regions in your entire nervous system. It needs resources to operate: glucose, oxygen, stable neurochemical balance. And when your body's been stuck in chronic stress for months or years, those resources get redirected. Where do they go? Straight to your amygdala, the part of your brain that handles threat detection and survival. When you're in constant fight or flight mode, your amygdala becomes hyperactive. It's scanning for danger, triggering stress hormones, keeping you on edge even when nothing's actively wrong. And because your system only has so much energy to go around, the prefrontal cortex gets deprioritized. That's why you can't think clearly, why planning feels impossible, why even imagining a different future makes your brain fog over. It's not you. It's your brain literally redistributing power to keep you alive in what it perceives as an ongoing crisis. We're not talking about a temporary dip in focus here. Chronic activation of the amygdala physically changes your brain over time. Studies show that prolonged stress actually shrinks the prefrontal cortex while enlarging the amygdala. You're not imagining the heaviness. Your brain has structurally adapted to prioritize survival over growth. And here's the cruel irony. The very part of your brain you need to plan your way out of this situation is the same part that's been switched off to conserve energy. You're trying to solve a problem with a tool that's been temporarily disabled. No wonder change feels impossible. This isn't a failure of character. It's biology responding exactly as it was designed to. But the brain is only half the picture. Your body's been keeping score this entire time, and it's exhausted. Think about what happens when you're actually in danger. Your heart races, your muscles tense. Energy floods your system so you can fight or run. That's cortisol doing its job. The problem? Your body's been doing this for months, maybe years, and cortisol wasn't designed to stick around permanently. When it does, everything starts breaking down. You can't sleep even though you're bone tired. You wake up already drained. You crave sugar and carbs constantly because your body's desperately hunting for quick energy that never lasts. You get sick easier, recover slower. Small things that wouldn't have bothered you before now feel massive. A text you need to answer, a phone call you've been avoiding. It all piles up because your system has nothing left to give. And here's the part nobody talks about, that fog you feel, that sense that nothing really matters anymore. That's not existential, it's chemical. Your brain needs certain chemicals to make effort feel worthwhile. Dopamine for motivation, serotonin for stability. But chronic stress drains them. So when you try to care about something and just can't, it's not because you've stopped being ambitious or passionate. It's because your brain physically can't produce the signal that says, this is worth doing. Your body holds tension in places you didn't know were tight. Your stomach's a mess. Your chest feels heavy for no medical reason. Everything aches in a way you can't quite explain to a doctor. That's your entire nervous system stuck on high alert with no off switch. People say, just take a walk or try eating better, and they mean well. But when you're this depleted, even those tiny acts feel monumental. Your body isn't being dramatic, it's rationing the last reserves it has, and anything beyond basic survival feels like a luxury you can't afford. What makes this even harder is how invisible it all is, because when someone breaks a leg, people understand, they see the cast, they know recovery takes time, they don't expect you to run a marathon. But emotional shutdown? There's no cast for that. No visible proof that something's seriously wrong. So people keep expecting normal from you. They see you dressed, awake, technically present, and they assume you're fine. Maybe a little off, but fine. And because you look functional, you start believing you should be able to function normally too. The gap between what people expect and what you can actually deliver becomes this constant source of shame. You cancel plans last minute, not because you don't care, but because the thought of showing up and pretending to be okay feels unbearable. You dodge calls from friends who genuinely want to help because explaining what's wrong requires energy you don't have. You stop talking about it altogether because every time you try, it sounds like excuses. I'm just tired doesn't capture it. I'm overwhelmed feels too vague. There aren't easy words for this specific kind of empty. And then comes the comparison trap. You scroll through social media and see people your age thriving, or at least performing thriving convincingly enough. They're traveling, starting businesses, in therapy and healing, posting about their progress. Meanwhile, you're struggling to answer an email. The contrast is brutal. It hammers home this belief that something is fundamentally defective in you. But here's what you're not seeing. Those people might be running on fumes too, just earlier in the cycle. Or they crashed already and clawed their way back. Or they're faking it just as hard as you are. The point isn't to diminish their success. It's to stop using it as evidence of your failure. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just finally feeling the weight of everything you've been carrying alone for far too long. One of the cruelest parts of shutdown is how it warps your sense of self. Because when you can't do the things you used to do, when you can't show up the way you used to show up, you start building a new identity around the absence. And that identity whispers the same thing over and over. There's something wrong with me. Not I'm going through something hard. Not my system is overloaded. Just I'm fundamentally flawed. You start collecting evidence to support it. Every missed opportunity becomes proof. Every time you say you'll start tomorrow and don't, it confirms the narrative. You were capable once, right? You used to have drive, energy, ambition. So if you don't have it now, the only logical explanation is that you've lost something essential, that some core part of who you are has degraded or disappeared. This is where the real damage happens, not in the exhaustion itself, but in the story you tell yourself about what the exhaustion means. You stop seeing it as a response to circumstances and start seeing it as a personality trait, laziness, weakness, a lack of discipline or character. And once that belief locks in, it doesn't just sit quietly, it actively sabotages any attempt to move forward. Because why would you try if you genuinely believe you're broken? Why set a goal if you're convinced you'll fail? Why hope for change if the problem is you? The shutdown becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain's already in preservation mode, and now your identity reinforces it. You're not stuck because you can't move. You're stuck because you've stopped believing movement is even possible for someone like you. But here's the shift that changes everything. What if exhaustion isn't who you are? It's what happened to you. What if shutdown isn't a flaw in your character, but a response to an impossible situation? What if the version of you that had energy and hope isn't gone, just buried under years of survival? Let's connect this back to something we talked about before, the feeling that there's no future worth working toward. Because these two states feed each other in a vicious loop, and understanding that connection is critical. When you can't see a future that feels real or reachable, your brain stops investing energy in planning for it. Why would it? Planning requires hope, and hope requires the belief that effort leads somewhere meaningful. But when the future looks blank, or worse, when it looks like just more of the same exhausting present stretched out indefinitely, your nervous system makes a calculated decision. Conserve everything. Don't spend energy on a destination that doesn't exist. And that's when shutdown deepens, because now it's not just your body that's tired, it's your imagination. The part of you that used to dream, that used to see possibilities, that could picture a version of your life that felt different, it goes offline. Not because you're pessimistic or ungrateful, but because your brain has rerouted all available resources toward just getting through today. This is why people in shutdown often describe feeling stuck in an endless loop. Same thoughts, same routines, same emotional flatness. There's no forward momentum because there's nowhere your mind can picture going that feels better than staying still. And the longer you stay in that loop, the more evidence your brain collects that change isn't possible. It becomes a self-reinforcing cage. But here's what breaks the cycle. You don't need to see the whole future clearly to start shifting out of shutdown. You don't need a perfect vision or a 5-year plan. What you need is one small signal that tomorrow could be even slightly different from today. Not better in some huge way, just different enough that your nervous system registers it as possibility instead of threat. Because once your brain senses that movement doesn't equal danger, it starts allowing you access to the parts of yourself that have been locked away. So where does that leave you right now? Sitting with all this information, maybe feeling seen for the first time in a long time, but also wondering what the hell you're supposed to do with it. Here's the first thing. Stop fighting yourself. Seriously. The internal war you've been waging, the one where you beat yourself up for not being stronger, faster, better, that's eating up the little energy you have left. Shutdown isn't something you power through. It's something you have to acknowledge, respect, and slowly work with. Your nervous system isn't your enemy. It's been trying to protect you the only way it knows how. The second thing, accept that recovery from this state doesn't look like motivation posters and dramatic transformations. It looks small. Boring even. It's going to bed 30 minutes earlier, drinking water because your body's begging for it, letting yourself sit in silence without guilt. These aren't productive enough to post about, but they're the foundation. You're not building a skyscraper here, you're trying to remember what solid ground feels like. And third, this one's hard. You have to stop waiting to feel ready. Because shutdown convinces you that you'll move when you have energy, but energy comes from moving, not big moves. Tiny ones, the kind that don't trigger your system's alarm bells. A 5-minute walk, one phone call, a single task you've been avoiding. Not because it'll fix everything, but because it sends a quiet signal to your brain. We're still capable. We're still here. You're not going to wake up one day magically healed. But you can wake up one day and realize the weight feels a little lighter, that the fog lifted just enough to see one step ahead, that you made it through another week, and somewhere in there you stopped hating yourself quite as much. That's where it starts. Not with perfection, with permission to be exactly where you are. If you made it this far, that means something. It means part of you is still fighting, even if it doesn't feel like it. Even if all you did today was watch this video. That counts, because understanding what's happening to you is the first crack in the wall. Look, whatever story you've been telling yourself about why you can't move forward, it's not the truth. You're not defective. You're not the one person who just can't figure it out. What actually happened is your body and mind hit a limit that most people don't even know exists. And now you're navigating a reality that keeps demanding more while you're trying to catch your breath. That's brutal. But here's what matters. This state you're in right now, it's not who you are. It's where you are. And where you are can shift. If this resonated, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because chances are, you know someone else fighting this same invisible battle. Sometimes just knowing you're not alone in it changes everything. And if you want to keep going deeper into why your brain works the way it does, why you feel the way you feel, subscribe. We're not here to sell you quick fixes. We're here to help you understand yourself in a way that actually makes sense. You've been surviving for long enough. Let's figure out what comes next. See you in the next one.